This collection of photographs I've made really consists of two pictures. A historic photo of a building or a scene in Springfield, along with a modern picture or a recent picture of that same scene that I've taken. And then using image editing software, I've merged the two pictures together to give this seamless transition of past and present. So, to give you a better example of what I'm talking about, here's a picture taken from the Harry Laybourne collection of a parade on High Street during the 30s. So using this picture as reference, I then take a recent picture, trying to match the perspective and scene as much as I can. And then once I have a picture I'm happy with, then using Photoshop, I merge the two pictures together to, again, gives you that seamless transition of past and present. When the farmer's market is downtown, I usually take my son on a bike ride downtown because he likes going to see the fountain, and we usually go to the farmer's market to get cheese and snacks and things like that. So my son, every time we go, he always wants to take his shoes off and play in the fountains. Now this fountain is actually where the name Fountain Avenue derives. Before this fountain was installed, the name of the street was Market Street, and the name Fountain came at the suggestion of a local doctor by the name of T.J. Casper. There were a couple reasons that would lead to the eventual removal of the fountain. The first was the construction and planning of the fountain wasn't very well thought out. So, for example, the lower basin of the fountain wasn't made large enough to catch all of the water as when all the cascades were on, so it was always wet around the fountain. Another reason is because when they installed the fountain, the city had placed benches and planted trees in hopes of attracting visitors to come admire this beautiful area. But instead it only seemed to attract loafers, and it became considered an eyesore by the community. So when the fountain was in great need of repair, the decision was made to remove the fountain, and those benches were actually taken to Snyder Park. The city building and marketplace, which now serves as the home for the Clark County Heritage Center. Now, this Richardsonian Romanesque style building was constructed between 1888 and 1890 and came at a cost of $250,000. And it was designed by a prominent local architect by the name of Charles Krager. The city building boasts two towers. The east tower is the tallest at 150 feet, and the west tower is 125 feet tall. And in 1924, the 8-foot diameter clock was installed on the east tower. The Heritage Center has done a phenomenal job of restoring the building and then really making it a place where people can come learn about the city. If I can choose any downtown building to turn into my residence, it would have to be the Lagunda Clubhouse building downtown. I've really been interested in that building ever since I was a kid. I like the way it looks, and I can imagine spending my evenings on that balcony area on the top. Now, the Louisville-based architect Frank Mills Andrews was commissioned to design the building in 1893 by the members of the men's social organization, the Lagunda Club. The building was completed in 1895, and the Lagunda Club is an early example of Beaux Arts architecture. Some key characteristics of this style of architecture that can be seen on the Lagunda building are the archways and the arched windows, along with the sculptural groups that are carved into the masonry of the building. And as you can see, these really are small works of arts that are carved directly into the masonry of the building. Now, I remember when I was younger, my mom would take us to the public library when it was located at the Water Literacy Center now. And I remember renting videos there, and I also remember having some events there, I think for Halloween. And compared to the size of our library now, I think it's kind of funny to think that that small building used to house our library. But the Water Public Library is another example of Richardsonian Romanesque, similar to the city building. And the Water Public Library was completed in 1890 and was a gift to the city of Springfield from industrialist and philanthropist Benjamin H. Warder. Warder was the president of Warder, Bushnell, and Glessner Company, who in 1902 would merge with 4 other companies to form the International Harvester Company. Warder hired Henry Hobson Richardson, for whom Richardsonian Romanesque style architecture is named, to design his mansion in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, Richardson died before its completion, but the architects at his firm completed the design of Warder's house. Warder then hired those architects to design that library. And the Warder Public Library served as the main branch of the Clark County Library from 1890 until 1989 when the new library was built. Before I started working at the Credit Life building, the only place downtown that I ever went to was the post office. In 1934, the post office replaced the old location, which was on the corner of High and Spring Street, which was another building designed by Charles Krieger. The building reflects the classic Art Deco style of architecture, which is popular during the 20s and early 30s. The post office also boasts two 18-foot eagles sculpted on each side of the entrance. The building's interior is also decorated with beautiful murals painted by Herman Henry Wessel. During the 1970s, the murals were covered up during an energy conservation remodeling, but in 2009, restoration began unveiling these beautiful works of art. So aside from the farmer's market, the other place that I like to take my son on bike rides during the summer and spring are to the Hartman Rock Garden. I remember going to the Hartman Rock Garden when I was a kid, and during the early 90s it was in pretty bad shape, and very recently a group has purchased the property and has done a phenomenal job of updating it and making it a place where this work of folk art can be seen and shared. And the garden was built by Ben Hartman, who was a molder for the Springfield Machine Tool Company. And Ben Hartman's actually seen here in front of a sculpture entitled The Tree of Life. In 1932, during the Great Depression, Ben was laid off from his job. And to help pass the time, he began constructing a cement pond in his backyard. And when the project was completed, he really liked what he created, so he began constructing a variety of figures and sculptures. And for the remaining 12 years of his life, Ben created well over 50 structures, each following the theme of either history, religion, or patriotism. I've come across a lot of photos of Snyder Park, and one of my favorites is this one here of the rest house, the craftsman-style rest house along Broadway Lake. This building here, along with several other structures at Snyder Park, was designed by a prominent Springfield architect by the name of Robert C. Gottwald. Now, another interesting fact that I learned about Snyder Park is that it was designed by a noted landscape architect by the name of Herman Herlin, who was involved in the design of OSU's campus and the Athens Medical Center. So this next picture is of a house that I pass on my way to work almost every day, and the reason I like it so much is because it reminds me of an old haunted house. Just the design of the house and the faded green paint. But this house was actually the first location of the Littleton and Rue Funeral Home. And this location served as a funeral home for several years, from 1915 until 1938, when they moved to their current location on North Limestone Street. So this next picture is of a place called Myers Market, which was once where the Elderly United currently resides. And one of the things that I liked a lot about this picture is are the billboards that are on top of the building. Asked my grandparents if they remember going there, and one of the things that they remember about Myers Market is a restaurant that they used to go to called Matty Gumthree's. And they said that they really enjoyed the food there, and my understanding is Matty Gumthree's was at that location for several years before moving to the Arcade building and then eventually to the Shawnee Hotel building. I'd asked a coworker if she remembered anything about Myers Market, and she told me that she remembers that there was a butcher there called McFarland's Meat. Since discovering these historic pictures of Springfield over the past couple years, I've had the opportunity to see several buildings that are no longer in existence that I wish I could have had the opportunity to see. And I think the one that is at the top of that list is of the Kelly Arcade. This picture in particular, one of the things that I like most about it is at the end, there's the bar there called Saturdays, and that's where my parents-in-law actually met. So this is one of my favorite pictures that I found of the several historic photos of Springfield that I've come across. And my son likes it too because he thinks it's a train. But here's a picture of a streetcar in front of the Fairbanks building. The Heritage Center now has a great display on streetcars and the role they played in Springfield and how they allowed people to engage in activities and work outside of downtown Springfield. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. If you would like to learn more about the history of Springfield and perhaps the opportunity to see some historic photos of Springfield, I encourage you to go visit the Clark County Heritage Center downtown. And would one more time like to just thank everyone for your support and for the kind words through email. If you have any historic photos of Springfield that you have in your own personal collection that you would like to share with me, feel free to contact me through email or on my website at stephenmertens.com.